Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.
Welcome to all.
History is made of stories.
In this episode, we'll be talking about HRIS as a tool for achieving consistency in human resources.
To achieve legitimacy, HR departments must align their practices and processes with the company's overall strategy and ensure internal coherency. In other words, HR processes must be coherent and consistent with respect to one another.
Okay, so all we have to do is roll out a closed, integrated, centralized, and modeled HRIS and we're all good. As you might have guessed. The reality is more complicated than that. So, what's the story?
The availability, quality, reliability, and integrity of data underpin the consistency of HR departments.
And when it comes to HRIS, information is central. It's the I in HRIS. So, HRIS is key to building a comprehensive approach and ensuring internal coherency in HR processes.
So, it's true that at first glance, you could say that if you're looking to achieve coherency and a comprehensive approach, then you should choose an integrated, centralized and modeled HRIS, because it promotes consistency between HR concepts and leaves little wiggle room for local entities, resulting in more homogeneous practices.
But that would be inaccurate for lack of nuance. There is no such thing as a good or bad HRIS per se. Effective approaches are those that are vertically coherent. In other words, the properties of the HRIS are in line with the main features of the company's culture and horizontally harmonious, meaning the components of the chosen HRIS are coherent and consistent with respect to one another.
While horizontal coherency fits perfectly with the HRIS approach we just described, this type of approach can run counter to the demands of vertical coherency.
As always, you also have to adapt what you want to do to the real-life constraints you face. And this can lead to the adoption of a more hybrid approach.
To ensure that your HRIS options, functions, and properties truly facilitate consistency, you'll need to keep an eye on 3 points.
First, you need to ensure HRIS characteristics are aligned with the company culture and the policies you want to implement. HRIS should never threaten the future of HR policy. It should further it, particularly when it comes to control and autonomy.
Using profiles and authorizations, an HRIS clearly defines each player's territory. It's a concrete embodiment of the way the company views the management and coordination of its entities.
Your HRIS makes the different players' responsibilities and what's expected of them very clear. So, it is an important tool for disseminating the company's HR culture to operational decision makers. The HRIS helps get them, as well as managers, who are responsible for many elements of HR, and employees who play their role with varying degrees of engagement, used to the HR approach.
The second thing to look out for to ensure that your HRIS promotes consistency is coherency between HR policy choices and the applications the system supports in real life.
Of course, the tool should adapt to suit the HR goal you're pursuing, but in reality, it's never that simple. The way certain HR concepts are handled by applications available on the market can significantly reduce their impact, or even make them impossible to roll out if you're not careful.
Last but not least, the third point you need to consider is coherency between the image vehicled by your HRIS and the messages HR wants to convey.
The way the tools model the processes and conduct them naturally plays a role in coherency because it structures ways of working. HR information systems are a tool for homogenizing practices through the processes that they roll out.
What's the point of an HRIS that delivers a chaotic user experience when HR wants to ensure its policy is consistent and comprehensive?
Your HRIS makes HR concepts that may be rather vague in employees' heads concrete. It also makes certain processes more visible, like workflows and approval by the hierarchy.
Which brings us back to our first point regarding culture and the concept of control, which is often at the center of things.
To recap, your HRIS can be an incredibly useful tool for ensuring consistency in HR. But to make that the case, you have to ensure that the characteristics of your HRIS are in line with the company culture, with HR choices and policies, and with the messages the department wants to convey to employees. Is that right?
Exactly right. Way to make a long story short.
Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.